Hey guys, so I just wanted to weigh in on the whole Piers Morgan situation where he left his morning show and he says it's all over because of his opinion. And I want to let you know that probably not. That's probably not why he got fired. And this is such a deceptive way of trying to spin what happened to him. So these are my thoughts on what really did happen.
Welcome to the Seoulite. It's the Seoulite Sean, broadcasting worldwide. Here's the countdown.
So first of all, he was not fired for his opinion. We all know that Piers Morgan has strong opinions. He polarizes people. He baits people into arguments. This is why he gets hired. So for him to say that because of his opinion, he got fired, I think is preposterous because he's been getting away with that for years. What he did, I think, was finally cross a line of professionalism that cannot be tolerated. And essentially, ironically, I think, is he probably didn't think it was such a big deal, but I think he got fired mainly because he walked off the set. He walked off the set during a live broadcast. And speaking as somebody who has worked in morning news, nightly news, live news, in the studio, that is one of the biggest cardinal sins. You can make other mistakes, but during a live broadcast, you do not just walk out.
Sorry, can't do
This is
this.
absolutely diabolical behaviour.
So that would be grounds to get fired for almost anybody. So if you walked out on your job in the middle of it, if a surgeon walked out in the middle of a surgery, if even a toll taker just walked out and left all the cars along the freeway just waiting, do you think any of these people would have their job when they came back? No. And let's say they do give him his job back. All of the future guests now have to expect that if they say something that does not agree with Piers, he might walk out. So what do you think that's going to do? You're not going to get high quality guests, and you're not going to have a positive work environment, and the show starts to get really stilted, and the ratings start to drop. And when the ratings drop, then that's when you start hitting the pocketbook of the company and the executives. So you could probably get away with the antics of Piers with his opinion because it can drive up the ratings and it can drive up the money. But once you get in between somebody and their wallet, that's when the axe comes down. So for him walking off the set over a very petulant disagreement over his so-called opinion and the opinions of somebody else who was very measured and very professional, that sets a situation where you are not going to be able to effectively do this show. And already it was trying to compete and outpace their rivals. So with that kind of situation, you're not going to be able to outpace he basically just closed the door, sliced that hope in half. There's just no way. All right, second of all, he is trying to deceptively manufacture this situation where he's saying because of my opinion, because of my holding true to what I believe in, I had to quit the show. And by the way, it was the highest rated show ever. And he was trying to take credit for it. Don't also be tricked by his sleight of hand here. Because if he was able to, based on his opinion, bring in higher ratings than their competitor, which is the morning show at the BBC, this is what they lust after, trying to outpace the BBC show. If he was able to do that with his opinion, he would have already done it by now. What was different about this situation was not him. It was not his opinion either. It was because of that weatherman. That weatherman who finally stood his ground and was not willing to concede, not willing to sweep things under the rug. He stepped it up So if there's anything different about how that show operated on Piers' last day, it was not because of Piers that they got the better ratings. It was because of that weatherman. So I believe he deserves a big, big promotion. He was the one that brought the level of drama to where it should have been. Someone finally being a heavyweight to take on the big bully, the star of the show. And what we saw was probably better than a Mike Tyson fight. What we saw was a TKO where Piers forfeited. He walked off the set to the weatherman.
Ooh, snap.
That is why that show beat the BBC that day. It was not because of Piers. Okay, so let's take a look at the deceptive interviewing style and the hosting practices that Piers engages in. It's based on this formula of triangulation. And if you know anything about people who are narcissists or psychopaths, sociopaths, or people with narcissistic personality disorder, there is a pattern to the way that they argue. If that just goes over your head, all you need to know is that Piers is not focusing on the news. He's just using the news as a backdrop, and he's using us as an audience that is not going to get more educated one bit whatsoever. He's just using it as a backdrop to set the stage where he gets to be right and anybody who is talking to him is wrong. So basically, it's all about his ego. It's all about his show. And it's a game he's playing. So the focus is to pretend it's on the news, but really it's a whole game of making him right and the co-host or the guest wrong. So him right, you wrong. So it looks like it's supposed to be like a one-on-one fight, but this is how the triangulation works, is that you have your argument and his argument, and then he quickly tries to attach his argument with something that is higher. And that can be a social value, it could be history, tradition, it could be the words of another famous person. So for example, we had the situation where one host was saying Meghan had concerns about finding mental health treatment and she was denied. And then Piers says, where's the evidence? Why didn't she name names? And that on its own is not that strong. But immediately what he attached it to was Meghan is trying to destroy the monarchy. She is making unjustified claims against our most precious institution. She is attacking the Queen, who has been trying all her life to preserve the monarchy.
Can we talk about the programme? It doesn't really matter what I think of Meghan Markle. It doesn't matter whether I believe her or not. What matters is the damage that she is accused of doing to the royal family. And let me ask you honestly, on the issue of race, she has now got the whole of America and the worst of the world, frankly, looking upon the palace, the monarchy, the Queen, everyone in the royal family as a bunch of racists.
So do you see what he just did there? Instead of arguing directly to what you said, he is immediately saying that you just even by talking are attacking the Queen. You are not a good citizen of the United Kingdom. You should be ashamed of yourself just by talking. And then his nonsense point is taken as correct. And then he gets to say like, well, you know, the Queen is on my side. So that's the 2-to-1. It's an imaginary 2-to-1. They're trying to create like a group of thugs around them that are imaginary in your head. So his argument is going to try to attach to a third element that is supposed to intimidate you mentally. So let's have another example that came up during this ridiculous episode. So Meghan, the argument is that Meghan had to flee because she was not being protected by the institution. Her son was not going to be granted a title, which means they're not going to give him security. And she felt that she had no one backing her up in this situation. So she was basically listing all these points of why she felt betrayed and that she couldn't trust that the royal family would accept her as a real member of the family. So basically she's saying real members get protection and security, and they are not treating us this way. And then on top of that, I think what she's trying to allude to say that she really knows at the core of when you can't trust somebody is when they are racist. And then she said that, well, if she heard that somebody in the royal family was concerned about the skin color of her child. Now, to anybody who's a person of color, they know that, okay, that's the line, that's all you need to know. If somebody is saying that, then you know, like, you cannot change their mind. There's no going back from that, and they're not going to have your back. So if you were worried about other things that seem like it could be this, could be that, that just kind of is all the confirmation you need. So Piers, on the other hand, is just saying, well, is it racist if somebody asks the color of the child? Which is not even what happened. That's not even what happened at all. Meghan said that there was a person who was concerned the child, if it was too dark, how would it look to the institution? Basically saying that if we have a dark child, then our monarchy could be at stake because somebody doesn't, like the racists in the UK don't want to have a dark member of the royal family. But Piers is trying to say like, but if I just ask the color of a child innocently, is that racism? So you see, like, first of all, he's trying to draw you away from your point, confuse you, and like say that was Meghan's, like that was the opposing viewpoint of Meghan when it was not at all.
Now, what colour could your baby be? Let me finish. What colour could your baby be? Is there a difference between that question phrased in that innocent, perhaps, way, and somebody doing it in a tone that says, well, how dark is your baby going to be?
Well, I think,
in a derogatory,
and
perhaps racist
right,
tone.
exactly, and there is a difference. But what we're getting from the interview is that it was said in a negative way.
She said that, but he didn't, did he?
Listen, stop separating Harry and Meghan. They are a team, quite clearly.
Yeah.
A very strong team.
And then he goes through, because that's such a precarious place that he can get attacked, right? So then he tries to then align it again to this triangle. So the higher power, so that would be, first he tried like saying like, oh, she's making a mockery, again, like saying a mockery of the royal institution. She's attacking the reputations of the royal family. So then he kind of took a little bit of a different spin. Same thing, he's trying to align himself with the power of the royal family, and you're attacking it. And then specifically he was saying, well, she's accusing somebody in the royal family of being racist, and she is going after their reputations. Then that didn't work. So then he was saying like, well, you can't believe anything she says. She's a liar. She's an opportunist. And then so he tries to then refer back to some of the sentiment that people might have where they don't really trust Meghan, which is also kind of a hypocritical thing for him to do, because he kept saying that the coverage of Meghan was so great, but by him doing that is basically triggering everybody's mind, saying like, yeah, remember like all the media was like calling Meghan, somebody that you couldn't trust. So when that doesn't work, he tries again to align to another higher power. And then she's saying like, well, she abandons her family, like she abandoned me. And then bringing it back to his stupid date that didn't go anywhere, and keeps repeating the fact that Meghan never called him back after they had drinks. And so he's saying like, oh, she abandons me, she ghosts her family, therefore you can't trust anything she says.
And you know what? And it's okay that Meghan Markle might not be perfect.
All that did,
it's
and let me
okay
just
that
stress
she might
again,
be a little bit difficult.
I did not know her that well. All it did was inform me that she has a bit of a streak in her where she cuts people out of her life when she moves on. That's fine. She's entitled to do that. But she's done it to her whole family apart from her mum. We've got her dad coming on now. He's been disowned. She's got a track record of it, which I just personally find is informative about her personality.
See how like he just makes all these leaps and jumps? And what did you learn about the news in all of this? Did you learn anything? Did you have any sort of are you more knowledgeable before after this hour of listening to him than you were at the beginning? You're not. You're just witnessing somebody arguing. Most other people, when they see that, they're like, oh, okay, this is a childish argument. This is not. Yeah, we've been here before, like in our young days, and we know how to handle this. We just kind of like sweep it on the rug and then let it go. But the problem is that he is commanding the attention of a lot of people over the airwaves, and like that weatherman did, it should have been done earlier, where somebody held their ground even more. There were some guests who did, but they were connecting, I think, a lot of the times through Zoom, so Piers could always cut them off when it seemed like they were, making advances in their arguments. He would just cut them off, but he could not cut off that weatherman because he was sitting right in the studio, feet away, several feet away, at the opposite ends of the desk, and he just would not stop. And I think the camera people were probably on the weatherman's side because they got all the shots that made him look good and then Piers looked like an idiot. So let's go over how you win in this situation. So same thing. He's trying to do 2 against 1. You try to do 2 against 1. So what you do is focus on your argument and align it to a higher power, a higher social value that is based in truth. So if you're talking about how Meghan was trying to find mental health resources and that she got denied, then try to align it to why shouldn't somebody be able to access mental resources? They've been doing a lot of charity work on mental health. How hypocritical would that be? And so the important thing is that the more you let them talk about their number 3, the more the argument becomes about refuting the number 3, which you're going to lose because you're going to be seen as a traitor to whatever this great thing is. And then you're also trying to refute this number 2 that makes no sense. All the while, you're ignoring the most powerful part of this triangle for you is your argument, your strength of opinion. So what you need to do is bring it back to your opinion and then attach it to a third higher power. And even better, it should expose how fake their third power is. So then you get to see where the real triangle is. Is it your third or is it his third? Make sure it's your third. All right, guys. That's just what I think. Join us again next time. It's great to see you. Comment, share, like, subscribe. Bye-bye.
Tune in next time. Don't forget to subscribe. Find us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Love you.
Absolutely diabolical behaviour.